This clip is about how to make a beautiful hardwood disc that could be used as a place setting for your high quality wine. These are very popular now, and they're also very expensive. So the question is, how do you get to this when your starting point is a raw piece of wood? So I'm going to take you through that process. The first step is to find a good hardwood log, cut it up into discs about 1 1/4 inch thick. Next, you have to kiln dry your wood because you cannot afford to wait 5 years to dry it. So this is an oven that is set to bake. You want your temperature to not go above 200. Put it on a rack, and it needs to be in there for about 3 hours. The next step in the process is to decide whether or not you want your finished disc to have bark on the outside or not. During the drying process in the oven, some pieces will fall off. If they do, you have to glue and clamp them back on. Some people prefer all hardwood on the side. Some people prefer the bark. Next, you'll have to start sanding, and for this, don't use anything less than the heaviest duty belt sander that you can afford. And your first sanding should start with the roughest, toughest sanding paper you can find, 36 grit. To do your sanding, you're going to need a bench of some kind, and in that bench you're going to sink 2 heavy wood screws. And the reason for that is when you do your sanding, this wood is going to get pulled off the bench, and those are your stops. Next, for your first sanding, you want to set the piece up on the bench against the stops, and when you sand, you want to sand on the edge first, pulling the bark toward you. If you do it the other way, the bark will just fly right off. Okay, the goal is to have a nice flat surface with good wood showing through. You might have to take off up to 1/8 of an inch to get this look, and you also might want to make just one pass on the bottom side, the opposite side of the wood, just to make it look kind of nice, but you're not going to apply any finish to that. You're only going to apply finish to this surface. The next step is to change your sanding belt over to about an 80 or a 60 grit. This one's 80. Alright, so the purpose of the 80 grit is to remove some of these sanding marks from the 36 grit. We're going to give this one short pass and smooth out the surface. The last sanding will be with a palm sander. I'm using 120 grit on this. That'll be the last pass. first step in finishing, which is to apply a quality sanding sealer. If you don't seal the surface first, because it's an end grain, you'll be applying maybe 10 coats of poly. So the purpose of this sealer is economy of your varnish, and you don't want any dry spots to show through. So let's put this on. Okay, our surface is dry now, but also after you apply sealer, as it dries, it raises the grain. So we have to sand it one more time with a fine sanding before applying a finished coat of poly. The next step is to use your first coat of clear polyurethane. You want to use gloss. You don't want to have a stain in it. You want the natural color of the wood to come out. And under no circumstances should you use water-based polyurethane. It's the equivalent of Elmer's glue. So you should use standard polyurethane, clear gloss. Well, it's about an hour later now, and we want to just smooth out the surface, which is dry now, but it's got some little high points on it. So we'll hit it one more time with a very fine hand sander. So next we want to give it one more coat of poly, and I'm going to also add coat of poly to the bark on the outside, give it a little gloss and to hold it together. Well, here's our beautiful hardwood platter after 2 coats of poly, showing off all that wonderful featuring that's been hidden inside of the tree these many years. It's a fun task, and many people are using these for place settings and platters and so on. This one isn't perfectly glossed over. If you want to, add another coat or 2 of gloss, seal up the cracks, whatever you want to do, but this one is done. Enjoy.